They have dust on them because they've been hanging in my closet for 6 years.
After a lifetime of babysitting and loving kids, Ashley Matulis was finally ready to have a baby of her own.
Or two. Whatever God wants to give us.
Months earlier, she'd met Mark, the man of her dreams.
We met online in January 2010. Met in person April 2010.
They clicked immediately.
Started dating. Moved in together really quickly.
And wanted a lot of the same things.
3 kids or 4 kids.
They got married.
When we first started trying.
But no baby, even a year later.
Started really worrying about, okay, well, how long is this really going to take? And here we are 6 years later, and it still hasn't happened.
So 6 years you've been trying?
6 years. Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I was diagnosed at 13 with PCOS, which is polycystic ovary syndrome. Essentially, in a very small nutshell, my ovaries are covered in cysts. So that in turn makes my hormones all out of whack.
Polycystic ovary syndrome is the leading cause of infertility in women.
Basically, everything is sitting in there and it just doesn't work.
It's estimated 10% of women have PCOS. Many don't even know it. Common symptoms are weight gain, acne, thick body hair, and missed periods.
In the past probably 7 or 8 years, I've had a period on my own 3 times maybe.
Ashley's doctor put her on medications to induce and regulate her cycle, birth control pills, Clomid, Provera, even an insulin drug, metformin.
Nothing was happening.
In the meantime, Ashley and Mark became foster parents.
Kind of thought, well, if we can't have our own, we can at least help other kids, not knowing how hard it would be to be going through infertility and have these kids.
That just made their desire to have their own even stronger. So Ashley tried the next step, injections of HCG, the hormone that releases the eggs.
And that one failed.
They waited 2 months and tried again. This time, they got an amazing 4 follicles. Now that's the sac that releases the egg to be fertilized.
Everything was down to a T and it didn't work. So that was probably the lowest I had ever been. Because you have 4. 4! And it didn't work. So that's when you really start questioning what is really wrong. Are they missing something?
So could it be Mark? They had him tested.
Nothing with him.
He checked out.
He's fine. Perfectly fine in all aspects. So it is just me. So that's when I was done, because it's just, it's so bad. And there's nothing you can do.
Now bear in mind, none of this is cheap, more than $6,000. Mark and Ashley are a blue-collar working couple, and they didn't have infertility coverage. They looked into adoption, but Ashley says the expense and restrictions nixed that.
You want it so bad, and there's nothing you can do to get it,
Then, on a fluke, Ashley made a call to Boston IVF, the infertility treatment center at the Women's Hospital.
I said, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know why I'm calling you. I have no way to do any of these treatments. I literally just had to call you.
It was during that 30-minute phone call Ashley learned Mark's company does have infertility coverage.
Within 30 seconds, oh yeah, you have 100% coverage. Yeah. So that was an emotional day, because that changed everything.
And now Ashley and Mark are setting out on a new journey to conceive a baby of their own through in vitro fertilization.
This may or may not work, if it does, great. If it doesn't, then it just wasn't in the cards. But this is the last attempt, and I have to do it.
And you are invited along for the journey. In the coming weeks, every Thursday on Eyewitness News at 10, we will take you step by step through the IVF process in hopes of bringing Ashley and Mark to their dream of having a baby of their own. And you can follow Ashley's blog on our Eyewitness News website, tristatehomepage.com. Go to sections and click on Hoping for a Miracle. We'll post more extra material about IVF and Ashley's experience as our series progresses. I hope you'll follow along. Shelley Kirk, Eyewitness News.
6 years of trying to get pregnant comes down to this early morning procedure. 2 days after a trigger shot, that's an injection to start the ovulation process, it's time to go in and get Ashley's eggs.
Here's what we're going to do after we retrieve the eggs today. So we're going to fertilize the eggs. The plan will be to do a day 5 transfer, which will be next Wednesday. And then we're going to put 2 embryos back. And then if we have more than 2 embryos that look good, we will freeze those embryos.
Once Ashley signs off,
They just sign there.
she's off to the OR, where the anesthesiologist gently sends her to sleep.
Been sleeping?
And the work begins. Guided by an ultrasound, Dr. Daniel Griffin locates the follicles in Ashley's ovaries. Now, those are the dark circles you see here. You can see the needle penetrate the follicle. Dr. Griffin uses that needle to suck out the fluid. Inside that fluid are the eggs, hopefully strong, healthy, and prolific eggs.
Does the egg that you have found, does it look mature?
Now, that's been a major problem with Ashley's fertility. For weeks, she's been taking injections to help her eggs mature. Once removed, the fluid is deposited in test tubes. An embryologist inspects them, looking for the best eggs, counting them off.
The black spot, the circle black spot is the actual egg. The rest of those cells around it are like the supporting cells.
That process continues about a dozen times over. It's clear, though, that something is not exactly perfect.
Are we seeing cells, Tracy?
The embryologist confirms.
Correct, yes.
Dr. Griffin continues, determined to find the best possible eggs for this last shot for Mark and Ashley.
Stood over in that corner and looked around and I couldn't really read any.
In the end, 11 eggs are retrieved, washed, and placed in petri dishes. Ashley asleep through it all. When she awakes, Dr. Griffin shares the news.
I got 11 eggs, which is not as many as I was expecting to get.
Dang it.
I was hoping to get between like 15 to 20 based upon kind of what your ultrasound looked like. We still have plenty of players in the game, right? So we'll call you tomorrow. Tomorrow's the most important number, which is how many, fertilized normals.
Later that day, in the romantic setting of a petri dish, Ashley's 11 eggs are introduced to Mark's sperm, in hopes they'll hit it off overnight and nature will take its course. Now, the next morning is met with high hopes, but those hopes are dashed when the embryologist looks in the petri dish.
Unfortunately, none of the eggs fertilized normally using that technique.
Eggs and sperm, but none together. Not a single one. It didn't work.
Tremendously disappointed.
Dr. Griffin says this happens only about 1% of the time, and it's not known why. He then had to call Ashley with the news.
So when he said that none had fertilized, at that point we were done. If he couldn't get my eggs to fertilize at all, then we were done. IVF was done. So that one had failed. Disappointment, anger, why, sadness.
But Dr. Griffin was not ready to give up.
There is a way still to give things a chance. I'm talking about rescue ICSI.
Next week, Rescue ICSI, what it is and the insufferable waiting involved, and the biggest question of all, did it work? You can read more of Ashley's experience in her blog at Eyewitness News website, tristatehomepage.com. Just go to sections and click on Hoping for a Miracle. Shelley Kirk, Eyewitness News.
When you hear the word rescue ICSI and you know that your eggs have been out of you for 24 hours and you know that Mark's sperm's been out, everything's been sitting there for 24 hours and, the clock is ticking. And
Rescue ICSI is an attempt to save the fertilization process after Ashley's egg and Mark's sperm failed to come together in the petri dish on their own.
We don't normally do it the day after the retrieval, but in cases like this, we would do it the day after the retrieval if we were able to.
An embryologist helps the sperm find his way by actually injecting the sperm into the egg. It's not done as a rescue very often, and it is considered a long shot.
you pray that it's going to work, but you don't know.
The news comes the next day. Of the 11 eggs retrieved, only 4 were fertilized and still alive.
We had 4 embryos. So we're back in the game. Everything is fine, whew, yeah.
Except one thing.
Because the timing is then off.
It is critical that Ashley's uterus accept the embryos. Now that means the transfer has to be done at just the right time. The rescue ICSI threw that timeline out of whack.
The best thing to do in that circumstance is to not do a transfer at all and freeze the embryo, wait for the patient to start a menstrual cycle, and then transfer the embryo in a subsequent menstrual cycle.
That means waiting.
Hold on.
4 weeks with the embryos in the deep freeze. The freeze and thaw means more risk.
I was mad. I was so mad because, you get so low knowing that you don't have any embryos. For him to call you the day before your transfer and say, hey, we're not going to do it. It's like, all right, I've waited 6 years, so now I have to wait a whole nother month, why?
1 long month later, timing is back on track.
How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Yeah. It was about a month ago that we were here.
I know.
Ashley and Mark arrive for the next big step.
So I have good news. Okay, we thawed 2 embryos. They both survived the thaw.
Transferring the 2 surviving embryos into Ashley.
You can't see the embryos when we put them in, but you can see the sort of air bubble.
Using a catheter, Dr. Griffin implants the embryos into the uterus.
I promise they won't fall out.
A 5-minute procedure, rather anticlimactic.
It was very quick, and now I'm up, and just like you said, just not very dramatic for everything that has gone into the past 3 months. Those are our embryos that they just transferred.
And now yet another wait. 9 days to know if all this worked. If Ashley is pregnant.
Because they're in there. We all saw them go in there. What are they doing in there? Are they doing what they're supposed to do?
April 21st, 3 p.m. Ashley, best buddy Joe Bird, and myself fill in for Mark, unable to get off work. We await the call. All of us, a bundle of nerves, all of us hoping for a miracle.
So we got the results of your blood work back, and they are positive. You are pregnant. And it's a really good number.
What number is that?
204.
I can't believe how calm you are.
Something you thought you'd never hear, isn't it?
The infertility journey's over, but motherhood and parenthood has just started.
We are all so happy for Ashley and Mark. You can see our entire Hoping for a Miracle series, more interviews with Dr. Griffin, as well as Ashley's blog by going to our Eyewitness News website, tristatehomepage.com. Go to sections and click on Hoping for a Miracle. We're going to keep you updated on Ashley's progress as we welcome baby or babies, Matulis, right about Christmas time. Shelley Kirk, Eyewitness News.